Today is January 26, 2023, and 2 years ago today, I was diagnosed with cancer and my life changed forever. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Today's video is a special video. I am going to do Get Ready With Me today because I have something very exciting that I am doing today to celebrate this day. I am going out with a bunch of my friends from my program tonight for dinner, and I planned this. I really wanted to do something that would replace a negative memory with a good memory, and that was kind of my thought process around it. And I just want to celebrate life because 2 years ago today, I was in a very different place than I am today. And even with everything that I've had to go through the past 2 years and even this past year after treatment, I am so grateful to be alive and to be where I'm at today. So I'm in a chatty mood and I want to just reflect on some things and talk about what it's like to survive cancer at such a young age. So like I said, I was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago today. I was 21 years old. I had had emergency surgery the week before my diagnosis. So if you're new and you don't know, I had Uterine Embryonal Rhabdomyosarcoma, which is a very rare type of sarcoma. And it's usually in the pediatric population, but I was diagnosed at 21. So I had gone to the emergency room quite a few times. If you haven't seen my full diagnosis video, I can link it up here. But I had been quite a few times because I was experiencing excessive bleeding, a lot of pain, and my uterus actually ended up inverting, so it turned inside out and I had to have emergency surgery. And I still remember going to my gynecologist's office because he had said after my surgery that I would be seeing him in 6 weeks and we would be just going over the results. He didn't really seem too concerned about it, and I just thought I'll recover and that'll be that. But then I had gotten a call from his office a week later and they asked if I could go in and bring my mom, which set off a whole bunch of alarm bells because this was at the peak of the pandemic and you weren't allowed to have anyone with you, especially in the hospital. They wanted me to bring somebody, so I had this gut feeling that it wasn't going to be good, but I just didn't expect the news that I had gotten. When he had came into the room, he closed the door and he said, "I'm sorry, I don't have good news for you." And he told me, he said it was something that was really rare. I would have to have a hysterectomy and he wasn't sure what the other treatment would be. So that was a very scary day. My first thought was, will I make it to my 25th birthday? And I don't really know why that was so significant for me at the time. I think maybe it was because that's like a milestone birthday, like quarter of a century. And then I was also thinking I haven't done much in my life yet. I grieved a lot in those first few weeks, just trying to process everything, and then having to have a hysterectomy only a few weeks later, and then being referred to one of the hospitals in Toronto, the cancer hospital, because that hospital wasn't equipped to treat this type of cancer. I had been kind of wondering if maybe I needed a little bit of chemotherapy, but when I had found out that I had to have both chemotherapy and radiation, it was a lot to process. And I remember meeting with my oncologist in Toronto for the first time, and they had told me that I would have to put school probably on hold. I've always enjoyed school. I was in my last semester of university and they kind of suggested that oh, maybe I put that on hold, but definitely in September, September of 2021, I was supposed to be starting naturopathic medical school, and they had told me that it would probably be a good idea to put that on hold. That and knowing that I was going to lose my hair were the two things that made me cry. I went through chemotherapy, radiation, lots of side effects, lots of setbacks, and then I got diagnosed with a second type of cancer in my thyroid, and luckily that was very small. They took it out and I don't need any other treatment for that. But having two cancers within the span of, I guess, a year and a half is a lot. So I finished all my treatments in March of last year, and I had my thyroid surgery in July of last year, and then I started naturopathic medical school in September. A lot has happened in the last 2 years. I think having cancer at any age is difficult, but I feel like there's this added layer of having cancer as a young adult because like I said, I was just finishing up university, so I felt like I hadn't lived yet, and I had to go through a lot of these experiences alone because of the pandemic, and also because being on such aggressive treatments, it made me severely immunocompromised. So I had to be very selective with who I was around. So it was mostly just a few close family members. Like when I would see a couple of my friends, it would be outside, distanced, and it was just a very lonely time in my life. I feel like during those times in your early 20s, you should be going out, having fun. I know everybody, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, wasn't allowed to be around people, and it was very lonely and isolating, but as restrictions started to relax, I still had to be in this constant state of isolation because I was still on treatment, and the risk was still significant for me. If I had caught something, the flu or even the common cold, it wouldn't be good. So that was really hard to have to see, you know, people post on social media, being together, me not being able to do anything about it, not being able to see people. I know there's FaceTime, but there's something about human connection in person that you can't get over FaceTime. So I feel like I still, to some degree, experience loneliness, even as I've transitioned out of treatment and I'm now surrounded by people. I think you can also get loneliness even when you're surrounded by people, and I think that's because I went through something that was very unique compared to a lot of the people that I'm surrounded by. Nobody that I am surrounded by, or very select few, can relate to what I have gone through. That's a good thing that, you know, not everybody experiences these horrible things, but it can feel lonely at times because no matter how much you explain to people and how much they want to understand, which I appreciate so much when people ask me questions and want to understand the things that I've gone through, but there's still that loneliness that it's not that I don't want people to talk about it, but here's an example. When in class we talk about menstrual cycles, and obviously we need to talk about that because a lot of patients that we will have in the future will have a menstrual cycle and they will have problems with that, but I can feel myself getting sad. Most people can't relate to that because they don't know what it's like to lose your uterus at such a young age and just not experience a period. And it's always like this constant reminder when we're talking about that kind of stuff that I am never going to be able to be pregnant. That was something that I really had to cope with and grieve through and work through, but it adds that level of loneliness, and I feel like it's getting better. As time progresses, I do believe that time does heal, but there is still moments where I sit back and I can feel myself back in that place that I was. It can just be a little bit isolating. Another part which I don't think is usually spoken about is mental health. I feel like, yes, you do have to be positive, and I seen this post somewhere. They're always told that they are very positive, and it can get annoying. And for me, like, I don't mind when people say that I'm positive. I think the thing that would bother me was when people would say stay strong, because there's that notion that you always have to be strong in this type of situation, which I do agree to a certain point, and I feel like anyone that does go through this is strong in and of themselves. But I think it's also important to acknowledge that this is a very hard experience to go through, and it's okay not to be okay going through this at times. Throughout my journey, I was almost like on autopilot when I was having my routine of going to my treatments and going to my appointments, and my whole life was centered around the hospital. When my treatment plan changed, and I was just feeling really lost, and I was feeling like my body just wasn't performing like it should because I was having so many side effects. We had to change the type of chemo that I was on, and I just felt really down about myself. But then I would feel guilty for feeling down about myself because I felt like I should be grateful to even be alive, because there are a lot of people that are diagnosed with certain cancers that they aren't so lucky, and that is very sad. So that was something that was really hard to wrap my head around, that it was okay for me to be feeling the way that I was feeling. And I will be honest and very raw because I feel like that's important, because if somebody's watching this and they're going through the same thing, I want you to know that it is okay that you're feeling like this, but to also do get the help that you need. So this was in November, I believe, of 2021, and I had just transitioned to maintenance chemotherapy. I was experiencing a lot of depressive symptoms, and it was kind of scary for me. And I was also, just like I said, really hard on myself. Why am I feeling like this? I should be happy. There's so many other people out there that would wish to be in my position, that they don't have treatment options, and I was just really beating myself up for it. And I ended up doing therapy. I was very fortunate to have a psychiatrist that I spoke to that was part of the young adult cancer program, and I did cognitive behavioral therapy, and that really helped me, and it really changed the way that I thought about myself. And I am still a work in progress. Like, I still have those moments where I feel like my experience, I almost invalidate my experience, and I think it's also because of the trauma that I experienced with trying to get a diagnosis and having nobody believe me until my uterus flipped inside out. That's something I feel like I'm going to have to work on for a really long time, but it was also something that was very helpful to seek counseling. And I want you to know that it is okay to see a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a counselor. and it can be a really healing thing. And especially the trauma, like I said, that trying to get a diagnosis, having the diagnosis of cancer in and of itself is something that it's okay to be not okay about. So yes, I am in a better place mentally now, which I am grateful for. Another topic, which I don't think I've talked much about this before, but it's dating after cancer. So I was in a relationship all of high school and into the first year and a half of university, and then I've been single ever since. So I feel like there's a very real rational fear that, especially in my case where I had to have a hysterectomy and now having children, even though I do have eggs frozen, it's not the most simplified. So I would have this fear that I wouldn't be able to find somebody that would really be able to accept me and everything that I've gone through, be okay with everything that I've gone through, and to think that I am great because of everything that I've gone through. I will share this little story. So a couple of my friends in my program convinced me to get a dating app, which I know dating apps aren't super serious, but I thought, okay, why not? So last week I had matched with someone and he had seen my picture of my TED Talk. He had asked me what my talk was about, so I said what the name was, and he proceeded to go watch my talk and came back and said basically that he was sorry that everything that I'd gone through, but he thinks that it's all too much for him. I thought, if that's too much, oh boy, that's only the tip of the iceberg. Because if you don't know, I did do a TED Talk in 2016 about living with an invisible illness. So I have Myasthenia Gravis as well, and I've had that since I was 14. So when I did the talk, I was about 16, turning 17 at the time. Obviously a lot has happened in the past 7 years since that talk, but it was just really interesting because at first I was really hurt by that response, and my fear was like kind of realized that, oh, it's not going to be easy to find somebody that can accept everything that I've gone through, or can, I guess, handle everything that I've gone through. And it's not something that really does come up in casual conversation. Like when you meet somebody, it's not like, hey, my name's Becky and I've had cancer. It's a very serious conversation, but I am also a very open person, and it took some self-reflection, but I eventually realized that his response said more about him than it did about me, and I shouldn't take it so personally. And I don't have any hate against that person and his views or whatever, but just because somebody says they can't handle a part of who you are doesn't mean that somebody else won't be able to, if that makes sense. And the right person that is out there for me will not only handle what I've been through, but they will praise me for what I've been through, because, not to toot my own horn, but I feel like I've handled everything that I've gone through well, and I feel like it's pushed me to be a better version of myself, and it's pushed me to do things like start a YouTube channel and speak at things and really bring awareness to young adult cancer and also women's health and gynecological health. And I just have so much planned for my future that I know I'll find somebody who is at that level and they'll be attracted to that part of me, my resilience and my capability to keep going despite all of what has happened to me. So I am just focusing on myself right now because I do think that I still have healing to do, and it's definitely not something that's going to happen overnight. I already feel like I've come so far, but I have some pretty amazing friends in my life. Like I said, we're going out for dinner tonight, and I believe there might be almost 20 of us that are going out, so I am very grateful to have met so many kind people. And every person that I messaged, I told them the reason why I wanted to go out, and I just thought that was such a great idea, and they were really happy about me including them and being able to celebrate with me. So I feel very blessed. I feel like the person that is right for me, he'll come probably when I least expect it and when I am ready. Because like I said, I have a lot of things that I still want to do and a lot of goals. There's my 2 cents on dating. So as for post-treatment, currently I did go see the liver specialist, and I'm going to get more into the results at a later video, but basically it's not something that's serious, but they do believe it was probably caused by one of the chemos that I was on. I'm still dealing with fatigue, and that's something that I really want to work on. I will be mentioning in another video that I do plan on starting a fitness journey, and the reason I want to do that and document it is because I feel like what is shown on the internet is either people that are able-bodied, are, you know, able to start at the quote-unquote normal level of exercise, so like 30 minutes a day to 45 minutes a day, either like high intensity or weight training. They're able to do multiple workouts in a day, and for me at this point that's not super realistic, and I feel like there's a group of people out there that that's not very realistic to start with. So I really want to document that because that's something that I really want to work on, and I think it will also help with my energy level. I did physiotherapy in person for like almost 6 months. I think it was 6 months, and that helped me tremendously. And then I moved on to a different program that was more online. Like you would still go in once in a while, but they would check in once a week online, and you would basically do all of your exercises at home. A lot of setbacks last semester with having to go through the biopsy, and I kind of fell off of that, so I am planning to get back into that. But on this same note, I am really trying hard not to be so hard on myself, because I catch myself sometimes thinking like, why am I not able to do this, and I should be able to do this, and I'm comparing myself to other people in my program. For example, like if it's past 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, usually I'm out for the day, especially if I've had like a long day of sitting in class. I would get really hard on myself for not doing more work and being as productive as possible, because I would see some of my other classmates, you know, getting all this stuff done, and then I would think, oh no, I'm so far behind and I need to catch up. But I just would catch myself and I would say, Becky, you literally went through the hardest few years of your life. You're in naturopathic medical school, which, might I add, is very intense and it is very busy, and there is so much information going in my brain. And actually, one of my friends in my program, she said to me at Thanksgiving, she said, I don't know how you're doing this. Like, a couple of people have said that. I don't know how you're doing this so soon after everything that you've gone through. So I need to give myself more credit where credit is due, that I am doing this. I am doing this intense program. I'm doing a full course load, which I wasn't planning on it, but I survived the first semester, and if I wasn't doing full course, then I would have to go through the summer, and then I wouldn't have any time off. So I am also trying to have a social life, and I just need to not be so hard on myself and just acknowledge that, yeah, my body has been through so much, and it is okay that I need more rest than the average person, because I'm still healing. It is going to take a long time, and it's going to be a slow progression, and healing both emotionally and physically is not linear. If you needed that reminder, there you go, because I feel like I would get so hard on myself, especially when I was, you know, trying to be active, that I would feel so good one day and I would walk on the treadmill, or I would do my exercises in my room, and then the next day when I came home from class, like, I just literally couldn't do anything except lay in bed and watch a TV show. That is okay, because there is always tomorrow. That's another thing. There's always tomorrow. And at one point in my life, I didn't know if that was even going to be true, because I didn't know, with this diagnosis, especially on this day 2 years ago, I didn't know what the future would hold. But I am so grateful to be here. I've just been through so much, and I'm still kicking. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit different, but I just wanted to chat about a couple of things that have been on my mind, and just really reflect on the past couple of years. If you're watching this and you're going through cancer, know that you're not alone. Even if it feels like that, there are people out there that do understand you, do understand your story and the things that you're going through. It is going to be okay. It may not feel like it today, and it may not feel like it tomorrow, but it is going to be okay. I feel like I've had so much growth these past couple of years, and having cancer definitely was something that was probably the hardest thing that I'm ever going to have to go through, but in a way it has made me who I am, and I am grateful for the lessons and who I've become because of this experience. So I hope you enjoyed. If you do have any other questions, leave them in the comments, and maybe I will do another similar video like this in the future. But thank you so much for watching, and if you did enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Like I said, I have a fitness journey series coming up and a couple of other exciting videos, so I hope you join along. This year is about getting healthy and taking care of me. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.